Hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to another reading vlog and welcome to my next installment of 1 Week, 1 Genre, where I use a random spinner wheel to determine which genre of books I'm going to be reading in this week's vlog. I have done 3 of these before. I will link them in the description down below. I have 5 genres remaining, so without further ado, let me screen record and we're gonna see which one I'm gonna be reading this week. Okay, interesting. That is going to be sci-fi, which I've already created the TBR for all of these because I was trying to fit books that I already own onto the vlogs because I have a goal to read down my physical TBR. So let me pull up the TBR for this, pull the books, and we'll talk about them. All right, so this is the TBR that I actually only have 1 book from my physical shelves for because I don't own a lot of sci-fi. The one I own is Severance by Ling Ma. I think this is kind of dystopian, end of days-ish. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the synopsis and we'll go ahead and give it a read. It says, Candace Chen, a millennial drone self-sequestered in a Manhattan office tower, is devoted to routine. So she barely notices when a plague of biblical proportions sweeps New York. Then Shen fever spreads, families flee, companies halt operations. The subway squeaks to a halt. Soon entirely alone, still unfevered, she photographs the eerie abandoned city as the anonymous blogger NY Ghost. Candace won't be able to make it on her own forever, though. Enter a group of survivors led by the power-hungry IT tech Bob. They're traveling to a place called the Facility where Bob promises they will have everything they need to start society anew. But Candace is carrying a secret she knows Bob will exploit, should she escape from her rescuers. A send-up and takedown of the rituals, routines, and missed opportunities of contemporary life, Ling Ma's Severance is a quirky coming-of-adulthood tale and satire. So it is listed as fiction, science fiction, dystopia. So that's why I've gone ahead and put it on the science fiction list. And again, this is the only one that I do actually own. The other 2 are books that I'm just curious about and want to read. All right, the second book I'm going to be reading is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I read Sea of Tranquility by her last year and honestly felt like I was missing something. I only gave it 3 stars. I know a lot of people really love it. It just didn't work for me. So I'm curious to see if this one goes a little bit better or if maybe she's just not a writer for me. So this one says, an audacious, darkly glittering novel set in the eerie days of civilization's collapse. The spellbinding story of a Hollywood star, his would-be savior, and a nomadic group of actors roaming the scattered outposts of the Great Lakes region, risking everything for art and humanity. So kind of the same setup as this one, honestly. Again, this is science fiction and dystopia. That's kind of what she's known for. So Station 11 will be the second book that I'm going to read in this vlog. And then the final one that I'm going to read is by Becky Chambers, and it is To Be Taught If Fortunate. And Kayla from Books and Lala read this one last year and really liked it. It's a novella, and I really liked her Monk and Robot series. I did not like her full-length novel as well, so I'm hoping because it's a novella maybe it'll remind me of that one a little bit. I know that this is kind of like gentle cozy sci-fi, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. This one says, at the turn of the 22nd century, scientists make a breakthrough in human spaceflight. Through a revolutionary method known as somaforming, astronauts can survive in hostile environments off Earth using synthetic biological supplementations. They can produce antifreeze in sub-zero temperatures, absorb radiation and convert it for food, and conveniently adjust to the pull of different gravitational forces. With the fragility of the body no longer a limiting factor, human beings are at last able to journey to neighboring exoplanets long known to harbor life. And we're following like a team that sets out to do that. So those are going to be the 3 books that I read in this vlog, and I'm hoping they will go well. I have wanted to read more sci-fi over the last few years and just haven't really managed to do that, mostly because, again, I don't own a lot of it. So I'm hoping that these will go well. 2 of them are definitely like end of days dystopia. One is cozy sci-fi, so we'll see if I have a preference. I'm gonna go ahead though and start with Severance because this is the one that I own physically. So once I am about halfway through, I will come give you some initial thoughts and let you know how things are going. All right, all, I am almost halfway through Severance, so I wanted to go ahead and give some initial thoughts. First of all, I thought this was about like a robot. It is not. She is a human. And when they refer to her as an office drone, they just mean that she was like following a very monotonous life. So my bad. Not about a robot. It is a human. So we are following Candace. Candace is, I would say, just kind of moseying through life, honestly. She doesn't really seem to have a lot of direction. She takes an office job working for a publishing company that is famous for publishing Bibles, like special edition Bibles. And we are following her in two timelines. So we are following her in the past when she was working in this office, and then we're following her in the present when she is with a group of survivors from Shen fever who are working their way towards the facility. And they are led by a man named Bob. Bob is like ultra religious, and we're following their group's travels, basically. So those are our two timelines. I would say I'm not like super invested as of yet. I'm finding it very interesting. I like the way the book has been set up. I do like the two alternating timelines. In her past timeline, we are getting a lot of information about her family, her relationship with her mother specifically, and she is doing a lot of reminiscing. And then in the present, in the chapter that I just finished, one of the members of their group seems to have fallen to Shen fever. So that's kind of where we're at. So I am currently getting ready to read chapter 12. That is page 141. So I'm really hoping I can have this finished today. And I will be curious to see what happens in the last half, because we have not yet gotten to the point where we have seen Candace join the group. The present chapters are with her already a member of the group. So I'm curious to see how they stumbled upon her and what's going to happen. So I'm invested in the storyline, but I don't feel any sense of connection really to Candace herself, but that could change. I'm still enjoying it. I think it's very well narrated on the audio, and I'm hoping again that I can have this done today. So that's my initial update for Severance. So let's get back to reading. All right, all, I did finish Severance last night, and I've kind of been sitting on it and thinking about what I wanted to say in this vlog. I did really enjoy this. I was reading through some of the reviews that other people had written, and there was a lot of DNFing of this book, people calling it boring or they just couldn't get into it. And I can see why that is the case, because this is definitely showcasing a person who moves through life pretty disconnected from what's going on. So Candace does not have a lot of personal connections in her life prior to the end, as she terms the Shen fever outbreak. She is just going through life, doing the motions, not really feeling much of anything for anyone or anything. She is in a job that she doesn't enjoy, and what she does like about it is the routine. So she is someone that we see from her flashback scenes that thrives on routine. She likes knowing what's happening, and she likes following the same steps all the time. So because of that, she settles into that office job. And when the pandemic hits, she takes a deal to continue working in the office. Slowly but surely, everyone but her leaves. So she and a small group are working in the office, and then that group dwindles until she is the only one left. And it takes her a while to realize that she is really utterly alone. There's no one out on the streets. It's just her. And that's what kind of prompts her to leave New York and fall in with the group of survivors that she finds herself in the present day chapters. So I think what worked for me was just the writing. I really liked Ling Ma's writing, and I just liked the way the story progressed. I did like the two timelines. I found both of them very interesting, although I did enjoy her past a little bit more just because more was happening and we got to see more of the past. So more of the chapters are her thinking back. There's definitely a nostalgia factor. This book is set in 2011 and it was actually published in 2018. So I thought it was published post-COVID. Nope. Before. So it's very interesting that she kind of pinpointed some of the things that would then go on to happen when the COVID pandemic first hit the world. So the working from home, all of that, the shutting down of the cities and all of that. It was just interesting to read that, knowing that this was published in 2018. So she hadn't yet experienced it. And I just really liked it. I don't know that I can put into words why I liked it. I just know that I did. So I'm giving it 4 stars. It didn't quite work for me as well as I Who Have Never Known Men. And I think the reason for that is because the character arc was maybe not as complete. This has an ambiguous ending, just like that one did. You are not going to get your questions answered. We don't know where Shen fever came from. We don't know what's going to happen at the end. It just is an ambiguous ending. I don't always like that, but for some reason it worked here. It worked in I Who Have Never Known Men, and it's definitely making me want to read more literary fiction because I definitely think maybe that is a genre that I have been sleeping on because both of these books would qualify. Both this one and I Who Have Never Known Men qualify as literary fiction. This is literary sci-fi, obviously. So I need to check more out in that genre. But I did really enjoy this. Would recommend. The audio is very well narrated. So if you are someone who maybe struggled to get into the physical book, try the audio. I thought she did a fantastic job narrating Candace's journey. And I just really enjoyed this. So this one is done. And as I was checking it off of my lists that I've made, this is actually part of my 26 and 2026 because it is a buzzword pick. Not until June. It was a one-word title, but it also works for a buzz cover prompt of damaged because if you look, there's like some instances of damage on the cover, so it works for that as well. So I've crossed off 2 buzzword things in January and a book off my 2026 TBR. So really enjoyed this, 4 stars, would recommend, but again, maybe do the audio if you're worried that you would get bogged down in the actual writing. I thought it was very beautifully written and I liked, again, that monotony. For some reason, it just really worked. So very glad I gave this a read. So this one is done. I am now going to be turning my attention to Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. That one is a novella, so I'm really hoping I can get it done today because Station 11 is chunky and I would like to give myself as many days as possible to get through that one. So the next time I talk to you, I think is going to be when I finish To Be Taught If Fortunate, just because it's a little over 100 pages. So it's not going to take very long and I'm probably not going to have a ton to talk about in the middle. It is more cozy sci-fi, so we will see what I think. I will let you know. All right, good morning all. I did finish To Be Taught If Fortunate yesterday. This one was really short. It was only 135 pages because the back of this is kind of like a little bit of a Q&A and then the first chapter of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. So I have read that one and I only gave that one 3 stars. So I think where Becky Chambers thrives, in my opinion, is with novellas because I really liked Monk and Robot. Both of those books were 5 stars for me. And this is another 5-star. This is definitely cozy sci-fi. There is not a lot of danger. There is one instance where the ship that they are on lands in a precarious position, I guess is how I'll put it. But this is very much just following their day-to-day as they travel from planet to planet with large time jumps in between. Because in this universe, in order to travel to far off planets, the astronauts go into what they call torpor, which is like a sleep, and they sleep for 13, 14 years at a time, because that's how long it takes to get from planet to planet. So we get little glimpses of their day-to-day on each of these planets. Now, they learn something towards the end, which influences how the book actually ends. So this book is Ariadne, who is the flight engineer, I believe. She is writing their account of what they've been doing to send back to Earth. And that's what this book is. And I just really liked the gentle writing, the cozy vibes. I liked I'm calling it found family because it's just the 4 of them on this ship going planet to planet for years at a time. So they become very close with each other, very good friends and more. And I just really liked it. It was definitely exactly what I was expecting it to be. The ending made me tear up a little bit. She closes off her, I don't really know what she calls it. She closes off her, it's not a letter, her report, I guess. There we go. She closes off her report with some really thought-provoking and emotional things, I guess. And it also ends with a quote from former UN Secretary General Kurt Waldheim in 1977, which is where the title of this book comes from. So I'll read that. It says, "As the Secretary General of the United Nations, an organization of 147 member states who represent almost all of the human inhabitants of the planet Earth, I send greetings on behalf of the people of our planet. We step out of our solar system into the universe seeking only peace and friendship, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. We know full well that our planet and all its inhabitants are but a small part of this immense universe that surrounds us, and it is with humility and hope that we take this step," which that's just a really nice message. And we could do with more of that in 2025, if you can understand what I'm saying. So yes, I really like this. I gave it 5 stars. I really just like her novellas, and that is rare because I don't always like novellas, but she just has a knack for writing really great ones with really great characters. So if you're looking for a lot of action and adventure, you're not going to get this with this, but if you want something with cozy vibes, I would recommend checking this out. So I'm really glad that I read this, and this is the first 5-star of this vlog. Now I will be turning my attention to Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I thought that this was thicker than it actually is because it looks really thick, but it only has 333 pages. And when I pulled up the audio, it says I should be done in a little under 6 hours. So I will hopefully have this done over the course of the next few days, because then I'll actually be on track for a vlog and not having to read a book in its entirety in one day like I had to with the last vlog, which I'll link up above, by the way. So anyway, yes, this will be the next one. I think I'll go ahead and give you an update once I am maybe halfway through or not quite halfway through. We'll see where I get today. I have a pretty full schedule at work, so I don't know how much I'll get listened to, but obviously I will let you know my thoughts and things. This is another apocalyptic type book. We are following the world and these characters after a pandemic. So much like Severance, we'll see what this one does differently, better, not as good. Anyway, we'll see, because I did not love Sea of Tranquility by this author. I only gave it 3 stars. So we'll see if Station 11 hits a little bit differently. All right, all, I am about a little over halfway through Station 11. At this point, I am on page 180. And basically, we are following several different POVs and flashing between before and after a flu pandemic basically wipes out the world. So our main POV, I would say, is Kirsten. We meet her at the start of the book as an 8-year-old child actress. She witnesses a famous actor have a heart attack on stage and pass away. This famous actor never gets his own POV chapters necessarily, but we see him through other people's eyes in other POVs, if that makes sense. So anyway, the night he passes away a pandemic called the Georgia flu, because it comes from Georgia over in Europe, hits Toronto, which is where this book is initially set, and basically spreads across the world and wipes out the vast majority of humanity, at least as far as our characters are concerned. So we flash forward about 20 years, and Kirsten is now a member of a traveling symphony. That's what they call it, a traveling symphony, theater troupe. They perform Shakespeare plays and perform music. So she is part of this traveling symphony, and I would say she is the main POV. We also have gotten some POV chapters from Jeevan, who is training to be a paramedic and attempts to save the actor's life on stage. And he meets Kirsten at that point because she is kind of alone in the chaos. So he kind of takes her and tries to find the wrangler, as they call the lady who's supposed to be watching the child actresses. So that's how we initially meet him. He hears from a friend who is a doctor at a hospital in Toronto that this pandemic has hit and it is going to be really bad. So he stocks up on food and water and goes to his brother's apartment. His brother is a disabled man in a wheelchair. So Jeevan takes as much food and water as he can to his brother's apartment, and they hole up there for the start of this pandemic. And at the point that I just read, they have lost electricity, and he and his brother, whose name is Frank, are kind of talking about what's going to come next. Okay, so that's that POV. Then we have gotten chapters from Miranda. Miranda is the dead actor's ex-wife, and we get to see how they met, how they fell in love, how they married, and their life after that, leading up to their divorce. And then we also have met the dead actor's best friend, whose name is Clark, and we got like one POV chapter from him. So there's a lot happening in this book. That being said, I am quite enjoying this. I did not enjoy Sea of Tranquility. I gave it 3 stars at the time I read it, but I think that was me being generous and not wanting to go completely away from what most people tended to think about that book. So I think I probably should have put it more at like a 2-star, because I really did not have a good time with that one necessarily. I just didn't understand it. It just kind of went over my head. This one, though, is much more accessible, and I am very much enjoying it. The thing I think she's doing particularly well in this book is showcasing a world once humanity has basically, civilization I should say, has collapsed. There are no big cities, there's no electricity, no running water, etc. And they are just traveling through these plots of land that have nothing but wildlife, and maybe some remnants of houses that hadn't been looted, buildings that hadn't been looted, etc. So I just think she's doing a very good job of setting the physical setting of the book. So I'm quite enjoying that. I'm also very curious to see how all of these timelines are going to come together. The most pressing issue for Kirsten and her traveling symphony / theater group is that they have passed through a town that is currently being run by someone who calls themselves the Prophet. And much like any leader of a cult, he believes he has been talked to by God, and he has been told to basically repopulate the world by marrying child brides and having as many children as he can. So the traveling symphony leaves the town without his permission, and you're not allowed to leave that town unless he's told you that you can. And now we have a very creeping sense of unease and danger, because as the symphony has continued to travel away from this town, people in the symphony are going missing. So it's got some really nice kind of mystery thriller-esque vibes as well, which I am enjoying. So yes, that is my initial kind of thoughts on this. I'm enjoying the writing a lot more than I did with Sea of Tranquility. I think it's a much more accessible sci-fi book than that one was. And I'm looking forward to seeing how everything's going to be wrapped up. I am planning on reading at least to the 75 or 80% mark today, and then I will finish this off tomorrow most likely. I will not probably do another update on this until the whole book is done, but I am really enjoying it. I definitely think it's going to get a higher rating than Sea of Tranquility, and yes, I'm curious to see how everything is going to shake out. The title comes from a comic book or graphic novel series that was not widely published, and it was written by Miranda, who is Arthur, the actor's ex-wife. So that's where the title comes from, but I'm curious to see if maybe there's going to have more relevance than that by the time we get to the end. So anyway, going well so far. This will be the final book of the vlog. As I said already, I was only reading 3 for this vlog, but I'm enjoying this a lot. Looking forward to seeing how it ends. So let's get back to reading, and I will let you know full thoughts once I have finished the book. All right, all, I did finish Station 11, and I am giving this 4 stars. I have already talked about some of my reasons why I like it, but again, it's very accessible sci-fi, and it's written in a way that really draws you into the story, and it keeps you invested even though there's nothing really over the top going on. This is more of a, I guess I'm gonna call it like gentle sci-fi. It's not cozy like the Becky Chambers book was, but it's more like gentle. It's just slice of life, a look at these people's existence post Georgia flu, and then their life prior to that. So I did like how it was jumping around to the various POVs. It kind of kept the story moving a little bit, because I feel like if we were solely following the traveling symphony, that it could get a little monotonous, because for the most part, their lives were pretty straightforward. And I did like the little intrigue that was added once the members of the symphony kind of start disappearing. And I would say at about the 70% mark is when you come to understand how everything's related. So we did get closure with all of the characters that we'd met. We got to see them again multiple times for the most part. And then at the end, we did finally get a POV chapter from Arthur, who is the actor. We're following him basically on his last day prior to him passing away on stage. We also get another look at the Station 11 comics. There were only ever 2 installments written because, again, these weren't published. She, Miranda, published them herself, and she gave both copies to Arthur. So he gave one to his son and then one to Kirsten, who was the child actress who we're following 20 years later, because she would spend a lot of time in his dressing room just hanging out in there, coloring, reading, etc. So he kind of developed a fondness for her, and that's how she got hold of the other copy of Station 11. So that comes into play again too with that like 70% mark. You start hearing a little bit more about the comic. And then I did also really like the museum that we're introduced to, where Clark is keeping track of old items as like memory storage, if you will, so that people can visit it and see what life was like prior to the pandemic. So I liked that as well. But yes, 4 stars for this one. Definitely liked this a lot more than Sea of Tranquility. And I do want to give her other books a try. She has a new one coming out this year actually, but I still need to read The Glass Hotel. So hopefully I can get to that one as well, so I can see if it's more like this one or Sea of Tranquility. We'll kind of see. I'm not sure yet that she's an author for me all the time, but this one did work. So I'm really glad that I gave this a read, and this is going to conclude the vlog. So I read a week of sci-fi and it went well. 1 5-star, 2 4 stars. I think this is probably the best one of these 1 week, 1 genres have gone for me so far in terms of ratings. So I have 4 installments of this vlog series left. You will see one in February, so I'm hoping that I can potentially get through the rest of these by the 6-month mark, but we'll see how that goes. But this one was a winner. Very happy with how it went. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of this video and would like to leave an emoji to show you we're here, you can leave a tent emoji. in honor of Station 11 and the Traveling Symphony, who stays in tents. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.